Hey everybody, it's Mucha Marapa from Matrix Global Media, and I wanted to take a moment just to shoot this particular video on the back of a recent course that I put together. A few of you may be familiar, just a few, may be familiar with the 7 steps to mastering your small business marketing, which was 7 CDs, audio CDs, where I cover a number of topics, and one of them is copywriting. And during my particular copywriting lesson, which went on and on and on, and I had a lot of fun doing it, I highlighted and referred a number of really great copywriters out there in the big old wide world, the likes of Drayton Bird and Joseph Sugarman, Claude Hopkins, of course, and a few others. And there was one gentleman who I did not mention in that audio program for a number of reasons, and I just felt that it made more sense just to go ahead and shoot a clip now and explain who the gentleman is, where you can find him, and why he's been a huge inspiration to me. His name is John Carlton, and he's based out in the States. I've never met Mr. Carlton. He wouldn't know me certainly if we walked past each other on the street or anything else like that. But I've been aware of him for some time, and I had previously signed up to some of his email programs and so on and so forth, just the free content that you can get, and which of course he is so generous with. It was about 3 months ago where on the back of listening to my weekly I Love Marketing podcast, it's a great one that's done by Joe Polish and Dean Jackson. And I know this is name drop city, and some of you may be or may not be familiar with these guys, but let me just explain this very briefly because it is very, very important. I first locked into Dean Jackson from this wonderful time management video that he shot, which totally changed the way I operate. That and Dan Kennedy's book. And Joe Polish, who's an exceptional marketer, and Dean do a regular podcast called I Love Marketing. And they talk about their own marketing tactics, and then they get just some of the big names out there. And without fail, I download this podcast and I listen to it when I go walking. And one day they had John Carlton, and it's safe to say it was very clear and made very evident that John Carlton is seriously in love with the art of writing, the true art of writing. So when I did my 7 steps, I didn't think that it would be appropriate, because in effect what I was doing was I was showing you how using effective copy can get you to sort of sell some of your products and so on and so forth. And while of course John Carlton's philosophies and teachings would reflect in that as well, you just get the impression, if you want to take things to another level, just to where, you know, writing just becomes just everything and anything to you, he's a great guy to listen to and to study. And in that interview, in that podcast, the I Love Marketing, it just came across, and as often is the case, you know, sometimes you pick things up in writing, particularly with the great writers, you do pick it up, but other times you need to either watch them on video or listen to their voice. And it was just an amazing podcast. His insight about writing and copywriting was just totally amazing. And I actually took away 2 things from there that were fantastic. Number one was I went to the garage and I dug up this puppy here. This is my Collins Gem Thesaurus from years ago. And just growing up as kids, you know, it was always, Mum, what does this mean? Or what's another word for that? And Mum would say, look in your dictionary, look in your dictionary. And she also got me a thesaurus. And then as time went on, I always had that. So I couldn't find my dictionary, but I had my thesaurus. And in the I Love Marketing podcast, he mentioned, get a thesaurus, use a thesaurus. So this now is here, it's with me, it stays right here every time I write. And I think it also makes sense now, because when he used to send some emails, what John basically would say was, look, why use a word when you can look into this and use another word? And he used to always end his email saying, stay frosty, which I imagine he means stay cool. What's another word for cool? Frosty, stay frosty. I like that. So it's the thesaurus, which was the big takeaway. The second takeaway was how to deal with books. The importance of reading books, but also how to go about reading books. Now, let me explain a little bit here. I am an avid reader. However, I don't read half as many books as I would really like to read. I mean, there are people out there that read 1, 2 a week, you know, high level, high performing people out there. And I've sort of beat myself up lately because I haven't just been reading enough. And another thing I try and do is, for example, I've got a client who's a merchant banker. It's my big brother Tao. So I like to read books in that area just to try and learn a little bit more. There's somebody else when it comes to a bit of law he does, and I've got this wonderful one by Jerry Spence, How to Argue and Win Every Time. I should put that to my mum. Freedom from Suffering from the great Steve Grinstead, Dr. Steve, who I'm working with. He's got a fantastic book. So what I'm saying is that there's just been so much here, so difficult, to do this. And what John Carlton said in the interview, he said, don't read the whole thing. Don't beat yourself up if you can't read the whole thing. Go through it sometimes, look at a chapter, look at 2 or 3 pages. If the books are worth anything, if they've been referred to you by somebody in the know, you will pick some great things up. And that was totally true. And that totally changed things. So now I'm back to reading 3 or 4 books a week, if you like, because I'm able just to go through some things, take some really valuable stuff and implement it instantly. So enough of this now. Where can you find him? Well, first of all, if you go to www.john-carlton.com, when I say he's literally got years of archived tips and strategies on great copywriting, I mean that. And, am I saying that the gentlemen I mentioned in the 7 Steps program, the likes of Drayton Bird, Claude Hopkins, Joseph Sugarman, pale in comparison to John Carlton? Well, actually, no, I'm not. But what I am saying is that I really felt an impact in listening to John Carlton about how he really sort of gets deep into the whole writing process and said, listen, you can get to a stage where you can do well and you can sort of achieve things, but if you really love writing and the whole art of it and so on and so forth, these are some of the other things you want to think about. And it resonated with me. So, short lesson over for the day. I hope this has been of huge value to you. I've listed the websites that you can find out more information from John Carlton. Get writing and get succeeding with your marketing.